in that sense, is called a magid. A magid, a malach. There's a magid that comes to you and uses your throat to talk to you. Because it can't talk to you. There's no way a malach can talk to you. So what it does is it uses your throat. Many people had a magid. Ramchal had a magid. It's famous for that. The Beis Yosef had a magid. He even wrote a book called the Magid Meisharim, which is all what the magid told him and so on. But a magid is is the fourth way that you can access ruchnius. You see. Then there's a fifth way, ruchnius, where you can mamish talk to a malach. But those malachim are from Olam Asiyah. Anyway, those are 5 ways to access ruchnius beyond the physical limitations.
So it says the Baal Shem Tov is able to see what's going on upstairs. It's really just...
which one did he access? Probably mostly Ruach HaKodesh.
So he just really did...
He just knew information.
Really that he went upstairs?
Nobody goes upstairs.
He just happened to know things because it's
That's what we call today Ruach HaKodesh, yeah.
Where is that coming from? Who's supplying that information?
Who, Ruach HaKodesh? Yeah. Either a malach...
From which angle?
Yitzir. Either a malach, what?
Not from Bria.
No, probably not. And look, the Roshim does it also. The Roshim give a person a tremendous tzaddik ruach hakodesh, which all means that tzaddik knows. It's. But I want to tell you something. For every ruchni's thing, there's always a physical also. Who's the counterpart of ruach hakodesh in physical terms? A regular guy can have it too.
ESP?
Yeah, exactly. Psychic.
Listen, let me ask you a question.
Guy can be psychic. I mean, there are frauds out there, don't get me wrong. But there are people who are really psychic. They know things that they could not have known any other way. And believe me, they don't have Ruach HaKodesh. A lot of these guys are, Rishoyim or just Stam guys, regular guys.
So why psychic. Do they have this koyach?
Because the Roshim invested in the human mind tremendous koyachas. One of which, and it's all teva, it's natural. Yeah, we all of us have psychic abilities, except we in many ways destroy it because we don't want to believe what we intuitively feel. We dismiss it. So therefore, after a while, the brain gets the message and it says, you're not going to believe it anyway, so why bother? But there are people who are psychic. Some remarkable people who have predicted remarkable things. And it's not Ruach HaKodesh that's close like that. It's not Nevuah. What it is just a psychic ability. The mind can access information beyond the 5 senses. That's what psychic ability is. But I do want to tell you, by the way, that La'asad Lavoi, which means in the future, when the Mashiach comes, everybody will go back to being a true Navi. Mamish a true Navi. At the Dag of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's astounding. The Moshe Mashiach, by the way, we cannot even begin to understand what happens in the Moshe Mashiach. But one of the things that is restored to Klal Yisrael is Nevuah, where everybody will be able to just sit down, close his eyes, and there it is, Nevuah.
And
it'll be as easy to access Nevuah, as just to pick up something. Nothing. Why? Because the answer is what? Because in the end, what determines Nevuah? The presence of the Rashla. In the Moshe Mashiach, Molor it's there. The earth will be so filled with the presence of the Rashla, right? That it's almost nothing to access. It's only now when he's disappeared, when he has gone up and up and up, that you can't do that. So that's why we cannot access Asilas.
Where was Adam Rishon, and which Darga was Adam Rishon? Kodem Ached.
Adam Rishon before the Chet, I wouldn't call him a Navi.
But he must have been in some Darga.
Because he spoke to the Mashlam directly. There was no...
So was he past Atzilas?
No, nobody's ever passed Atzilas.
So was he looking through the window of Atzilas?
Probably. But it was like
but
it was natural. It wasn't he didn't have to be given to him as a gift. That was his Malhus. He's a tzir kappa for Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't even know what that means. But his Malhus was he could talk to Moshe like we talk to each other. There's no schus. That was his Malhus. He was given that koich at birth. At creation. He was the greatest human being that ever was that ever could be. He was perfect.
But not as
Except-
big as Moshe Rabbeinu.
He was bigger than Moshe Rabbeinu. He knew more. Adam Rishon knew everything. Moshe Hashem said, he revealed to him all the doers, everything he revealed to him. That's Adam Rishon. But Adam Rishon wasn't human like we are. We're not talking about a human. Moshe Rabbeinu is human. So we look at Moshe Rabbeinu and say, wow, for a human to have these koiches is like, wow, you know? Adam Rishon, before the Chet, wasn't human. We're talking about a person who most of his being was in Yetzirah. And we call that, like the Ramchal says in Das Tunis, he was really in Yetzirah, and to him that was like Asiyah. And then when he did the Chet, he fell into Asiyah. We're not talking about a human being, you know. It's like the Ramchal says, his Ruchnius, he was just like, you know, our Gashmis was his Ruchnius, was Yetzirah. You know, so you can imagine.
Our Ruchnius was his guy.
Our
Yeah.
Ruchnius was his Gashmis.
Yeah. So therefore, he was naturally the greatest of any being that ever lived. Listen, you know what the riot for all this is? Let me ask something. When was the last time Malachim sang Shira to anybody here? No, I don't know of any, right? You know, a guy who hears Malachim singing Shira to him, you know, it needs a psychiatrist rather quickly. You know what I'm saying? So, let me ask something. A Malach is beyond the charts. I mean, let's face it, a Malach, we have no comprehension what a Malach is. They are incredible, right? And so on. Okay. You imagine Malachim singing to Adam Rishon because they thought he was God? What does that tell you? That means that they couldn't distinguish. Obviously. And we're talking about Malachim that has IQs are off the charts. You know what I'm saying? They don't have IQs. They're like million IQ, you know what I'm saying? And so on. And they're singing Shira to a man? Yes. Because fundamentally, he was perfect. Except in the Nakud that they had to be tested. Obviously, he couldn't be perfect totally, or else he wouldn't do a chet. But he was made a perfect because the Russian wanted that. He said, listen, if I'm going to create man and give him a job, it's not fair to make him deficient, really deficient. I'm going to make him deficient in the smallest madrega possible, and in that will be his test. And therefore, he was indistinguishable. The Malachim, until the Russian showed him, obviously, hey, you know, he's human, he's not made. So that tells you a tremendous amount, what you have to know. You know what I'm saying?
Why did humanity fall so terribly?
Humanity? Yeah.
Humanity,
Yeah.
right, until Noach. In other words, Hashem, you have the Adam, the Adam Rishon, and you expect something great to come from it, and here, Hashem has to get rid of all of them, except for Noach and his family.
You know, it's what was it say? The greater the man, the greater is his Yetzer Hara. You know what I'm saying? The Yetzer Hara always equals you. He has to, or else there's no contest. You know? So, in a certain sense, even though they were closer to God, because they were obviously all the way in the beginning and so on, but in that sense, they still had a Yetzer Hara that was equal to their Ruchnius. That's what Zeh Lo Mazeh, Bo Elokim. If they were greater than the Yetzer Hara, there's no contest. If the Yetzer Hara is greater than them, there's also no contest. You see? So, they obviously had incredible Yetzer Haras. You know, and therefore they fell. You know, look, it's like Esav. Esav wasn't Esav. You know what Esav was? We don't even know who Esav really was. You know, I don't know if you know. I'll just because it's the whole shit itself. Well, you know, do you know that Esav was greater than Yaakov Avinu? How does that sound? Esav was greater than Yaakov Avinu. I'm not the one who says it, right? It's the Paneach Rosa who says this. Who's a Rishon? He says that Esav was twice as great as Yaakov because the gematria of Esav. Of Yaakov is twice Esav with the mole or the vav. Yeah. Esav had it, you know, so then you have to be getting all kinds of questions. Okay.
I mean,
so
Esav is twice Yaakov.
Esav was twice as great as Yaakov.
The gematria of Esav
In
is
the
twice
potential was twice.
Yes.
But not
So
in
how in the-
actuality.
No, in actuality, of
In
course.
actuality, he wasn't, yeah.
It's Russia.
Yeah.
Esav of Russia.
But his
I'm
head-
talking about
his head
what he
ended
could
up
have
in
been.
the Moshe.
Yeah, that's why his head is Moras Machpelah. That's the raya. Because how can his head get into Moras Machpelah? You know, it's too tomei. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously the cup, which is the potential, what he could have been, is phenomenal. You know, except he decided at 15 years old, made that early decision. Actually, at 13 he decided. That's it. He went out to Tabas Ro and so on. But Madach Esav, who is bigger than Yaakov Avinu, you know, who was the Bechor. I mean, we don't even know the koiches of Esav, really, you know. We suffer from the backlash of Esav because that's Rome. Esav and Edom is really the forerunner, the outgrowth of Rome, of Esav. That's what Esav, Edom, Rome, Christianity, and the Western civilization. That's the chart and so on. But Esav sinned. How do you explain that? And remember, Esav's grandfather was Avraham Avinu. You're talking about Yichus there, and you're talking about who could teach you, Esav's grandfather was Avraham Avinu, who was alive until he was 15 years old, which is a formative years anyway. And then what does he have? He has a father, Yitzchak. You ever know what it is to have a father, Yitzchak? It's incredible. And then he's got a brother, Yaakov. Right? And all his grandmother was Sarah. I mean, wow. He had what were the odds that he would sin? Even a book in Las Vegas would never take those odds. There are no odds. It's impossible.
That's the biggest Chiddush is
He did it.
The biggest
You know
Chiddush
what I'm
is
saying?
on the that he said. That's the biggest Chiddush.
Yeah. So people sin. They do it all the time. And so on, But in any case, yeah?
Asa would have been told, it never would have been the Zebul Mazeh with Yaakov.
Zelu, well,
That's why you had to be the way he came out.
yeah, so the Shaila is the Oim Yamot. How could that be an Avur? How could that force Asa to be Chote? So that has to be, it's an Avur of what will be, but that did not contradict his Bechira. You see? Well, you have to say that, or else it doesn't make, there's many problems with Asa. Why it doesn't, how could an embryo, he's not even born, have a Yetzirah to be over Zah? I mean, not only that, why is he a Russia? If an embryo wants to be over Zah, he has no chance. So he's not a Russia. He's an onus. So what do we call him a Russia for? There's all kinds of problems with that story, of which there is a very good solution, and so on. That's another share. But in any case, so this is Esav, incredible person, his koiches were incredible. The koich of Esav to destroy the Satan, because that was his job, was incredible. But, failed. Anyway, so, look, Judaism is a story of try to fail, contingency plans. That's what it really is, a story of people trying to make it. Some people make it, some people fail, some people don't make what they could have been. Yeah, that's the way it is, and so on. But anyway, so that's the concept of Nevuah. Now you know what Nevuah is, a certain basic understanding of what a Navi really is, what the Alamas are. And getting back to my original 3 questions, so, Hashkafa is the architectural plans of the Bria. That's Hashkafa. Kabbalah is the study of the dimensions, of the meta dimensions, the Ruchnistige dimensions. That's Kabbalah. And what's Musar? So, Hashkafa is the study of the factory. Kabbalah is the study of the mechanisms, which is the study of the machines. And Musar is how to work the machines.
That's halacha.
Musar.
No, that's
Study of
halacha.
Musar.
Musar is motivation. Outside of your machine, that's halacha. What is it?
No. The concept of Musar really is part and parcel of what's called the larger idea called the Avodah. What does the Avodah consist of? Remember how I said, the bottom line of the Avodah is to retransform this reality into a different reality. That's really what the Jews do. The Ramchal calls it zikuch. Zikuch haguf. Zikuch means to retransform or to purify a physical reality into a spiritual one. That's really the bottom line. As such, the Jew is really a repairman. He repairs existence. That's really what he does. That, and the term that is important used for that is called tikkun. The Jew is masakin. What does he fix? He fixes existence. He changes it from a state where the Moshe is not apparent into a state where he is apparent. And the first one who does that in the beginning is the Mashiach. The Messianic era is nothing more than the beginning of that transformation. Not totally, because we don't change. But he certainly is the beginning of where the environment changes to reflect the Ruchnius. Musar is, how do I get there? Musar is a study of technique, which means, how do I change reality? That's what Musar is, really. Technique. And as such, Musar is part and parcel of what's called the avodah, the work, the service. How many parts are there of the avodah? We need to look at that. How many parts are, let's look at really what changes reality. Because now we know what the bottom line is. Tell me, how many parts of the avodah is there? You'd be surprised. What's the first?
Mitzvahs.
Mitzvahs. It's called asiyas and mitzvahs. Great, that's one. Anything else?
Machshava.
That's also mitzvahs.
Limud
Yeah,
Torah. Limud Torah.
Limud.
Yeah.
Limud.
Even
Exactly.
though it's a mitzvah also. but-
Exactly. But it is so unique, right, that it deserves a place by itself. Limud Torah is 2. 3.
Tefillah.
Very good. Tefillah is 3. Tefillah, which is also part and parcel of mitzvahs, but it is so unique that it deserves a place by a mention, an honorable mention, as they say. Right? So we have asiyas and mitzvahs, 1. We have limud Torah, which is 2. We have tefillah, which is 3. Anything else?
Maybe chesed.
Who?
Chesed.
Very good. But what's chesed part of?
Mitzvah, but it's one of the things that
No,
nobody
what's it called?
understands.
What's chesed part of?
Gemilas Chasadim.
Malachta and Rabbi.
Torah avodah gemilas Chasadim.
No, there's a larger term that chesed is part of. And you need to know the larger term because that embraces many other things.
They know the Mechaber.
No. Tikkun Hamidus. Tikkun Hamidus.
Well, isn't Limud Torah and Tefillah part of Tikkun HaMidas?
No. No. Limud Torah is...
You could be
Limud
in
Torah.
Torah without
You could be
thinking
Misat
about
and Midas without being learning Torah.
You can learn Torah and have terrible midas.
But
And there are people
but
like
you have
that.
good Midas without learning
Of,
Torah.
I'm sure, of what
Are
we've
there
met.
proper Midas without learning Torah?
Are there, yes, they could be naturally. Some people have just naturally good meats. You know what I'm saying? Tikkun HaMidas embraces all the...
Yeah, but the life it says in Pirkei
The line
Avos,
says,
Ein
how to speak the
The what?
Ein Torah, Ein Derech Eretz.
in Torah.
Ein Derech Eretz. So you need Torah for the, like he's saying, for the...
No, I'm not. No.
It says in
Don't get me.
name Derech Eretz and Torah.
Yeah. No. Listen. Each
Total
one.
Torah.
I'm not going into now. This is not a study of how to attain Tikkun HaMidas. You know, what do you need first, and so on and so forth. I'm just saying this is the avodah. You have asiyas hamitzvos, you have limud Torah, you have tefillah, you have Tikkun HaMidas. That's 4. These are general categories. What do they all do? What they all do is do the same thing in common. What do? They bring down the ore of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that changes reality. They're triggers. They're all trigger devices. I call them tikkun devices. They all do the tikkun. There's a 5th, by the way. Anybody know it? What also does that?
Sure.
Tahara. Purity.
No.
Kedusha. Kedusha.
No. In the old days, there were over 2 million people doing this.
Sigufim.
No. Nevuah. Nevuah is an avoid b'fnei atzmo. It involves a lot of this stuff. You have to have Tikkun HaMidas, believe me. You have to have Tara. You have to remove yourself from Gashmis. A lot of stuff. But in the end, what is Nevuah really? Right? You went to school. What'd you study? You studied how to become a Navi. You actually went to yeshiva for that. You know what I'm saying? I hate to think what the tuition charge was. You know,
Probably
it's just
less
like,
than we pay today.
I would assume free.
whatever it was. Now, I don't think there were any government programs for Nevuah. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there was any state funding for Nevuah. But anyway, there was a whole Nevuah. What did they do in Nevuah? What did you do? Well, you went to school, right?
The lottery will be nice.
So what did they study in Nevuah, really? The schools of Nevuah. So you had to do all of this stuff. Okay, you had to do the mitzvahs, Tikkun HaMidas, and clean out the
But
daven.
the Rambam
But what
says
are-
you had to be an Aisha to be a Navi. Doesn't the Rambam say certain ingredients that you need to be before you...
And now I understand why so many Jews are into the market. Because they
You
want
have to be
But
Sameach, you have to be an
the
Aisha,
essence
you
of
have to be-
Nevuah, the essence of the limud of Nevuah, besides the preparatory, the essence of the limud of Nevuah was Kabbalah, Shemus, Yechudim. That's what they did. They had to know how to meditate on Shemus, what the Shemus were, all the Tzerufim. In many ways, it's the Sefer Yetzirah. All the combinations and permutations of the Shemus and so on, which Olam goes first, how to do the Nevuah, everything. It's Kabbalah. It was a massive study to become a Makubal at the experts level. That's an Avodah.
Did they have to know
See?
Nigla first?
Nigla? Yes. Yeah. You
That
had
was
to
a
be.
requirement for
Yeah,
going
you had to
into-
be. I mean, look, there are people who had Nevuah and they were not, Shmuel Hanavi had Nevuah when he's 3.
You also Paskin, I love it.
Obviously, Nevuah is given as a gift, or Nevuah is given as an avodah. You know what I'm saying? There are people who would not Nevuah right from the get-go. Like Shmuel Hanavi, 3 years old, had Nevuah. But he didn't even know what it was.
As a matter of fact, it
He went to
says,
Eli, what's happening to me?
speaking
You know what
about
I'm saying?
3 years old, doesn't it say that Bismana said the only Nevi'im are Ketanim
Shaitan.
or
Shaitan.
Shaitan?
Yeah.
Shaitan and Ketanim.
Yeah, so they should know that it's Nevuah, and we should know. But it's the Rosh wants to Megala certain things. So he'll do it without people think it's Nevuah, but he wants the message to get out. Anyway, those are the 5 areas of the Avodah. Okay? Asiyas HaMitzvahs, Liman HaTorah, Tefillah, Tikkun HaMidas, and Nevuah. Nevuah obviously is closed, however, but the Tikkun HaMidas and the whole Avodah is part of is how you bring down the ore, right? The power to be Mezakech HaOlam Hazeh. And that's really what it's all about. So, today we went quite a lot into Nevuah, into what Avodah is, what Hashkafa really is, and what Musar is. So Musar is nothing more than a study of these things, either Tikkun HaMidas, or Tefillah, and so on. That's what Musar is. In today's time, Musar and Hashkafa is combined. You look at Michtav Melio, so it's a combination sefer. You have Hashkafa and you have Musar, Mesilas Yesharim, or Sadiqim, But theoretically, technically, they're really differently mudim. You could study one in and of itself as a unique limud in itself. Okay, any questions?
Where are we in Derech Hashem now?
By the way, for all those who came late, this is an open shir, which means that if you know people who are interested in learning Ramchal, Derech Hashem Be'iyun, by all means, this shir will continue at least till January, till I go to Eretz Yisrael. So we're looking at here, another 10 weeks and so on. It's at 9:30 in this place. So if you're not informed by, a text, you know that there's a shir going on. If for some reason I'm not able to make it, whatever, so you will be texted in advance that there's no shir for that night only. But in general, we'll continue the whole time.
The Nefesh HaChayis,
Where are we in Derech Hashem now?
Is anyone going to Twin Oaks Drive? Yeah? Oh, good. Wonderful.
Yes.
Person gets from, let's say, using Google Earth. What is that?
That's a segula.
Segula to get the right answer?
Yeah, that's different. Segula is different. Yeah.
Segula there is today.
Where do you categorize school?
Segula.
One
I
of the
think-
4, one of the 5.
Segulas are, it's more like, it's almost like, it's not kishuv, but it's,
The physical world, the spiritual world.
there's certain physical things you can do that can access information or bring down certain koiches. It's almost akin to Sheamus.
someone emailed me.
I'm going to mention 2 points. One, you mentioned that other Mauritian had some sort of a defect.
No, but you don't.
Enough that he should have a soyin do the chet.
Right. The Rambam clarified that it was a sholem. It was a
You
reason.
want to email me with your information.
Yes, but
The only thing he had a Yetzer Hara Mibakus. So that doesn't mean that it was a
but no, there was a flaw in himself. He wanted to be God.
He wanted it. I'm saying he wanted it. What?
He sent Telekim.
No, that was the Sutton's problem.
I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be God, you have no interest. If I say, I'm going to make a delicious meal of metal,
Right.
does that in some way turn you on?
No, it's not
Why?
advertising.
Oh, exactly, right? In order for you to be attracted, in order for there to be an assignment, there has to be something within you that lends itself
To that madrigal.
That's
That could be to the contrary. Because he was on such a high madrigal, he was a perfect bria, so that's why he would be like Hashem. Why could, if he had a defect, on the contrary, so he can't be.
No, but the fact that he wants to be, was that? I don't know. The fact that he wants to be the reverse one. Look, he knows he can't, and the sign is, well, if you violate the rule of eating, you'll be like the Hashem. That means there's a defect in his sense of self.
Where do you see that he felt that he wanted to be Hashem? Where do you see that?
Who sent out
Who
the
said
text
that?
The Nachash told that to Chava.
That's the Nachash Deitza, not other Rishon. Where do you see there was other Rishon Deitza?
She repeated the arguments of the son.
Yes. Which I read it.
But not that it started off with other Rishon.
It didn't. It started with Chava. No, I never said it started with Chava.
So there,
right?
yeah, well, that's what I thought you were saying.
No.
But anyway,
No. She repeated the argument to Adam, and he went with it. She repeated the argument.
yeah, but how do you know it was Keshin? Isn't there a reason that says the Keshin of Adam Arishan was to do an Aveir Lishma?
Yeah.
To be Miles Madrega?
Tesla speaks about that.
But Vegas Adam,
Not that his program was to be in a Hashem.
By the way, I just want to say, because there seemed to have been a confusion, that I now live in Lakewood, so therefore I don't have to go back to Brooklyn. So therefore I intend to continue this every Mitzvah Shabbos at 9:30 until I go to Eretz Yisrael, and I stay there for 2 months, whatever, until basically January. So, I just want to let you know. So this continues until then. Second thing is that this year is an open shiur, which means that if you know people who would like to listen to this type of shiur, they're invited. Okay? It's not closed in any way, and that's why it's in a shul and so on. That's the second thing that everybody should know. Okay. Last week I had gone into some very important ideas. Last week, the first week actually. And I had gone to the whole concept of a Hagdama. The Ramchal's Hagdama. What the Pnimius is. And what I tried to show last week, what the Hagdama is, because like I said, everybody had that question, like, what is a Hagdama about method doing in a Sefer of Hashkafa? Because the Hagdama is basically about learning techniques, learning method and so on. And what does it have to do? And I answered that by saying that the whole concept of method of the Ramchal, okay, the whole concept of structure, of defragmentizing information into a unit, a cohesive whole, right, is in many ways the Derech HaMashiach. Because that's what the Mashiach does. He's going to unify all knowledge into one idea. And basically what that means is that he will show that the entire world, all physical phenomena, okay, all physical phenomenon is really rooted in a different dimension called Ruchnius, the spiritual worlds. And all of them emanate from the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's why what he does is beyond belief. And that, as I mentioned, the premise for that, by Yosef HaTzadik, Bohem Am Yinagach. I don't want to repeat the whole shir, but that's the weapon of the Mashiach ben Yosef, fundamentally, is this type of information, where all information is unified as an incredible fabric structure, and that's his power. As I said, he will go the nations with the weapons of his head, which is Yediyah. Anyway, that's what I said last week. And that is in many ways messianic. So what the Ramchal is doing, he's saying, I'm going to introduce hashkafa in the same, in the same way that ultimately it will be spelled out to everybody, which is what I call it the Derech Hashem. The Derech Hashem. And I showed you that Derech itself has evolved. The Rambam was Meshana the Tzura of Gemara. He actually Meshana the Tzura of Torah, actually. That's what he did. Right? Just reorganized everything. And that began the whole concept of unification of information. And then went from the Rambam to Beis Yosef and so on. Then I showed how in science the same thing happens, because ultimately, as I said, the Zohar says in 1240, the Or Mashiach begins to descend, because that's Thursday night at 6 p.m., which is Erev Shabbos. And Erev Shabbos is the Achon of a Shabbos. So the Messianic light, the Shefa, which means the force of a Messianic light, begins to descend, 5,772 years ago, 73 years ago. And what that force is that mankind realizes everything is combined. Everything is united. That's what mankind realizes. And that began a long time ago. But it has two tracks. Track one is science, because that's really, the Or Mashiach connected to the physical universe is science, but connected to the Jewish world is what? What's the Or Mashiach connected to the Jewish world, really? It has two aspects. The Nigla part is the Rambam and so on, where all of a sudden you see all kinds of halachas that are being unified, okay? But the Nista side, the Kabbalah, is the spiritual dimension, okay, of what the Or Mashiach were connected to, and that also really began very strongly, like I said, 1290, Moshe de Leon discovered the Zohar. It's right around 1240, which is 5,000 years, which is Thursday night, at 6 p.m. So I went into that last week, Is it on the internet last week? Yeah. If those who missed it and want to hear it, it was really a fascinating gym. It's on the internet. Where is it on the internet? I realize saying it's on the internet is like taboo. But, if for those guys, what?
Text me an email. Just text me an email.
What is it? It's closed?
Where is it on the internet?
Where in the internet is it?
It's not anyway, just I have to give a link.
Oh, you haven't given it in yet?
No, I gave to whoever I have a list, to the whole list, I gave a link.
So where is it, on Yahoo? Not Yahoo. It's on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
it's on YouTube. Yeah. So how would you get it?
I have to give a link. Just whoever needs, they should email me. They should send me the email.
Give me something to, so I can connect with you.
He's the individual, by the way.
Just text me. I'll give my phone number. Just text me an email.
Yeah. If you Google my name, somebody told me there's like 3,000 things that come up, which is astounding.
You just text me an email. I'll send it.
And I'm not responsible for any of them. So anyway, now the Ramchal now starts with a fundamental idea. He now starts with a fundamental idea. I had once said this, but it's good to know. What is the difference between the terms Hashkafa, Kabbalah, and Musar? Hashkafa and Musar are very much intertwined, but really there are three distinct areas. If you remember what I said, I once defined what is the difference between Musar and Hashkafa and Kabbalah. How would one define them? Because they're three different separate areas. Okay, so I gave an example. What?
I would say that Musar and Kabbalah are tools to use in the formulation of Hashkafa.
Is it Musar and what?
Musar and Kabbalah are
tools
to be used in the formulation of Hashkafa.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell me what they are.
Oh, okay.
Just tell me what they can be used for. Right? We need a definition.
It's the general term.
Yeah. So let me look this way.
Influenced by ethics, which is Musa, and by Kabbalah, which is Kabbalah.
Okay. Here's what I would say. Imagine you go to a factory because you want a job, right? You want a job, so you go to this factory. Let's say they make shoes. Okay. You speak to the head of the company, and he says fine. So he says, okay, I'll hire you. but you don't know anything about what's happening, right? So the first thing he tells you, okay, meet my marketing division, accounting division. They will explain, right, what's happening in general, right? This is the product we make. There's a marketing department, tries to get it out. There's an accounting department, there's an administration, managerial, all kinds of things, all kinds of different divisions in any given company, especially if it's a factory and so on. So meet with the guy, that's one. Now he meets with the guy, and that guy spells out in general what the whole thing is all about. What's the plan, the purpose, the function, the divisions, everything, right? That's what he does. But the guy says, okay, but how do you make your product? So he says, okay, for that you have to meet with the manager, right? The floor manager, and he will tell you the different machines that we have. The different machines that we have to make the product. There's a product that probably cuts the leather, or makes the soles or whatever, the heels and all that kind of stuff. Fine. So he meets with that guy, and he takes him around the floor, and he shows him all the machines, how the product is actually made, But then the guy turns to the manager and says, okay, I understand now what it's all about. I understand the machines that make the product. How do I work the machines? How do I work it? So he said, well, for that, let's go over to one of the operators, right? And the operator says, okay, let me show you how you work the machine, how you work the other machine, and so on. And then the guy walks away. He has a full understanding of every aspect, basically, of this factory. In many ways, that's the same concept. What is hashkafa? What is Kabbalah? And what is Musar? Hashkafa is the overall term, okay, for everything. It's the architectural plans of the Bria. That's really what it is. It's the architectural plans of creation. All of it. The purpose of creation, okay, who are the beings involved? The Rabbi Shalom, who is he? Why did he create it? What does he want? And so on. Why are there Jews? Why wasn't the Torah given to everybody? And so on. How do we understand the progression of history? What's it all about? Where's it all headed? And so on. That's hashkafa. And that embraces really the study of the totality of the creation. That's what hashkafa really is. It's an all-embracing study of everything. However, there are specialties. If you want to understand, one, the different parts of creation, the physical universe, which is really a small part of Olam Hazeh, because Olam Hazeh is much bigger. But if you want to understand the physical universe and then the spiritual domain, and then you want to understand God, okay, well, Kabbalah is the study of the Rabbi Shalom and his use of this, rather it's a study of the structure of the spiritual universe, the Rabbi Shalom, and how he uses the spiritual universe to interface with the physical. So Kabbalah is a specialty study in the spiritual domain. That is the root and the interface that the Rabbi Shalom has with the Bria, which means the physical universe. Okay, so that's Kabbalah. So Hashkafa is the overall, Kabbalah is a specific limud, another dimension, which Rabbi Shalom uses, okay, to interface Hanhoga with the physical universe. And it's also the root of the physical universe. Musar is okay. What does Hashkafa say? Well, Hashkafa says, what's the fundamental statement Hashkafa says? Actually, this really is the fundamental job of the Jew. What is the fundamental job of the Jew? Anybody know? Bottom line.
Bring it to actuality.
Who?
To carry it out, to bring things to actuality.
Actualize what?
Be obedient to God.
That's Hayechitimsa. It's not the fundamental idea. Sounds strange, doesn't it? Who?
To create a world of Kedusha, etc., etc., and everything that we are supposed to.
That's closer. What? Because the problem with your statement is, what's Kedusha? What is it? It's a term that's bandied about all the time. What does it mean to be Kadosh? Interesting concept. I mean, the translation of that is holy. What is holiness, really? That's the problem. Although what you're saying fundamentally is correct, but it has problems because, somebody can say, well, what are you talking about? What's Kedusha? It's vague. Yeah, what? What do you say? Yes. You plead the fifth? For that you didn't have to raise your hand. What?
It's actually the opposite, to spread the word of, to spread the name of God.
I think it's to connect, no? Connect to
To connect. You know, I'll tell you something interesting. What God wants, what the Rabbi Shalom wants, is to change reality from A to B. What the Rabbi Shalom did is very interesting. He created a reality, different levels of it. But ultimately, there's a reality that he's concealed. We don't see him. We can deduce his existence, but we don't really see him anymore. In the olden days, there was much greater deduction of his presence. And in the olden days altogether, he revealed himself at a certain minimal level of revelation. But the problem is we live in a state of reality that denies the appearance, really, and the revelation of the Rebbeinu Shalom. We don't see him, you know. We believe in him.
The entire Bria is the presence of Kachma.
That's a deduction. That's not a reality. You deduce that. You know, we believe that, but that's...
You don't believe it when you wake up in the morning and the sun is shining, right? So who gives this to us?
No. Who gives is a deduction, right? You don't see who gives it. If you saw the Rebbeinu Shalom there, doing the sun, you're right. That's why there's so many apikosim in the world. If you were right, there would be no apikosim. You know, if God was that direct, well, everybody's got to see it. You're talking about visual evidence.
Lori Son, you can't see. You can only see
so you're
what he creates, what he does.
But you're agreeing with me.
Yeah.
You're agreeing with me that we do not see the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what he did. It's on purpose. He created a reality that he does not want to be seen or observed or perceived, except in a very minimal way, which he chooses at different times to break the real status quo of the Bria. That's the concept of Hester. Olam Hazeh is a mokum of total Hester, almost total Hester. That's its definition. Right? The state that reality we are in is a state of Hester, right? That's really what it is, and so on. The Russian wants us to change it. He wants us to retransform the physical universe back into a spiritual universe in which he is directly observable. Although not you cannot understand the limitations of him, but the observation of his presence is there for everybody to see. It's a change of reality. That's what he wants.
When you say back to what?
Oh, back to what? Because the interesting thing is we can ask, did the Moshe create Olam Hazeh and he wants us to change this reality, to transform it to another? Or did he originally create Olam Haba and then made it more obscure, and now he wants it to remove the obscuring back into the original state? That's the Chakira. You see? So what you see clearly, you see that from Kabbalah and from Hashkafa and so on, that the Rebbe Hashem did is very interesting. He created Olam Haba first. That's what he did. He created Olam Haba first. What?
Is that like
No. Gan Eden is a contingency plan. Put that aside.
The ideal wasn't Adam Rishon, Kadam Achet, and Gan Eden.
No.
That still wasn't the ideal.
That was not the ideal.
That's what Hagon was saying.
Because Adam Rishon before the Chet and Gan Eden was still Olam Hazeh. The Moshe doesn't want Olam Hazeh. He wants Olam Haba.
He hadn't avoided the two.
Correct, which is that mitzvah.
Which was only one mitzvah.
Well, it was really more, but the basic idea was, don't eat from that tree. It was basically a diet mitzvah.
So basically what it all boils down to...
Don't eat.
So basically...
That's the origin. He was the first diet guy, Adam Rishon.
So what would Adam Rishon
stay away from the tree.
So what would Adam Rishon have from it if he'd stay away from the tree?
What he would have?
He would remain in his pristine form. But what would he have more than he had?
Oh, he would have gone from Olam Hazeh to Olam Haba, you see. In fact...
He would become a malach, the kids say.
No. A malach is nothing near what Olam Haba is. Olam Haba is a place, we'll talk about what I think Olam Haba really is, you know. But Olam Haba is a place that is not understandable today. Ayin lo yirah so.
It's not a
That
physical,
Gemara says that. Everything
it's
that's...
not a physical dimension.
It's not physical.
It's not a physical
No.
dimension. And Adam Rishon Gan Eden was a physical dimension. It was a physical
Well, he
dimension.
was physical, spiritual. Slash. He was, it was... The world, I don't want to get into that because when I get into that, when we get to Adam Rishon, the world of Adam Rishon was different than our world today. Very different. Okay? Before the Chet and after the Chet. But even Adam Rishon before the Chet was not what we think it was. It was not Olam Haba. Okay? It wasn't Olam Haba at all, and so on. Had he done the mitzvah, which means had he not, he had till 6 o'clock at night not to eat till Shabbos set in. Had he done the mitzvah, then he would have become a Shiach, because that's really who he was. And then we would have been born in a state of tikkun. And that and Olam Haba would have started on Tuesday. Interesting. That's why it says Ki Tov twice. The first Ki Tov was the first Tuesday, and Olam Haba starts in what's called the 10,000th year, which is the next Tuesday. So therefore it says Ki Tov twice. See, Ki Tov for the first Olam Haba and Ki Tov second time, because on the next Tuesday would start Olam Haba. I don't want to get into that now.
It wasn't supposed to start on Shabbos?
Who?
Olam Haba wasn't supposed to start on
No,
Shabbos?
not at all. Chat Chorav. Not at all. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what all these eras of mankind really is. But right now, this is what the Moshe did. He created Olam Haba first, okay? He regressed it, so to speak, to Olam Hazeh in different levels, shlavim, gradations, okay? The highest level, okay? Let's look at a building with 5 floors. Let's look at 5 floors. Okay, the top floor, or rather the roof is not possible to reach. You cannot go on the roof, okay? That's called the Ein Sof. It's a place that nobody can get there.
What's it called?
Ein Sof.
Ein Sof.
Ein Sof, yeah. That's a measurement, even that has many gradations, but without that. The top floor number 5 is Olam Haba. Okay? Then what the Moshe did is he took Olam Haba, okay, and he sort of like transformed it into Olam Hazeh, which has 4 levels. The 4th floor is called Atzilus. The 3rd floor is called Bria, Olam Bria. The 2nd floor is called Yetzira. And the 1st floor is called Asiya. And then he created a basement. Yeah, even that has a basement. And that's the Olam of the Sitra Achra. So in a certain sense, it's in the basement, you know.
That's where we are?
That's where your tenant is. When you think of your tenant, for some people it's like a salt, it's a mamash Sitra Achra down there. Anyway, so there are really 5 levels of existence. There's a 6th, which is the basement, which is the world of the Satan, Sitra Achra. And then there's a roof, which is incomprehensible. That's it. That's the structure of reality. The problem is we live on the 1st floor. And as such, we have no access to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on. We have no access, really. However, our problem is that because we're on the 1st floor, we have no idea what's doing on the other floors, which is a different dimension of reality. The upper floors are a dimension where the Rebbeinu Shem is perceivable in that you know He is. It's clear that He exists. Well, whatever that means. But it's on the 1st floor that we do not see. We have indications, and every once in a while, like I said, the Rebbeinu Shem will, allow Himself to be seen, in quotes, not literally whatever, but you can experience Him in a way which is far more direct.
Like Matan Torah.
Like Matan Torah. However, there is one way that we can go. We can actually go from the 1st to the 2nd to the 3rd. Yes. And we can look into the 4th, although you can't go into the 4th. There is a phenomena that allows us to do that. Anybody know what that is?
Prophecy.
Nevuah. Yes. What is Nevuah really? Nevuah is a mechanism by which you can ascend, not literally. You cannot ascend physically. But what happens is your consciousness all of a sudden becomes like a movie screen. And you actually can see into Olam Yetzirah, into Olam Bria. And you can actually see into Olam Atzilus, which only the Rebbe Hashem is in Atzilus. I'm not explaining it well, but and so on. You can actually look into that. Nevuah is that. That's what prophecy really is. It is a phenomenon, it's a mechanism that if you know how to do it, you can actually change the landscape of your vision from visual into mind. In other words, the imagination becomes a screen, a screen, where you can look into, you could see Malachim. That's Rabbi Shmuel Atzmai. Rabbi Shmuel, remember Yom Kippur? Rabbi Shmuel, there was a whole gzeir of the Asura Rugel Malchus, so they said to Rabbi Shmuel, okay, you're the guy. Go up and find out, is this a gzeira or not? Can we overcome the gzeira? So what did he do? Rabbi Shmuel Atzmai, he purified himself, right? And he did all in Lamora. He didn't go up physically, but what happens is he sat down and being mechavan on Shemus. It's all about Shemus and Yehudim and so on. He all of a sudden looked into Olam Yetzirah. And he saw a guy, it was a malach, whatever, you could see, you can't see a malach literally, but they themselves have a costume that you can speak with them. And he spoke with him, because once you're into that olam, even in terms of imagination, you are now connected to that reality, and you can actually speak to the denizens, to the individuals of that reality. So he spoke to the person, said, okay, is this bad, what's the story? And he says, listen, Kabul, it's over with.
Okay, but the first stopped after Bayis Rishon, and the second one stopped after Bayis Sheni. But now we don't have it.
When you say stopped, what do you mean stopped?
In other words, Nevuah. Nevuah stopped after Bayis Rishon.
Yes.
Right? And the ability to be, let's say, what you describe now, ended after Bayis Sheni. But so where are we?
I will tell you where we are at.
Is this what Moshe Rabbeinu did when he got the Torah?
Yes.
Moshe Rabbeinu went.
Moshe Rabbeinu, it's that's a very interesting, Let me just give you the dargis of Nevuah, because you have to understand what's going on, right? The question is, how far can you see? Remember, you don't go up there. You can't call a travel agent and say, get me the next plane to Yetzirah. You don't want to do that, because then it's permanent. It's a permanent situation. It means you're dead. But anyway, what you can do, or what is possible through Nevuah, is to meditate on different shemus and so on and so forth, and all of a sudden your imagination, immediately the view of Olam Yetzirah is there. Actually, you can see it, but you're in a trance. I'm not describing the whole process. What happens is all of a sudden you fall, your consciousness is controlled externally. It means you cannot control anymore what you're thinking or anything like that. All of a sudden, whatever olam you're at, you're into Yetzirah, and you actually can see Yetzirah using the imagination as a screen. And you cannot say anything. You just watch. And in that Yetzirah unfolds all the divine mysteries. However, real Nevuah, okay, is how close are you to the fourth floor, which is Atzilus. Moshe Rabbeinu, his Nevuah, what type of Nevuah was it? Was incredible. What he was able to do is his imagination would actually, he didn't even do that because he was a Navi, he didn't even go into a trance. He could, while he was awake, have that vision. But normally a Navi would, whatever, and so on, they would be able to look in their imagination into Atzilus itself, which is the fourth floor. That means they could see through Yetzirah, through Bria, and look into Atzilus, standing in Bria. It was an incredible, and what did they see? They saw God, however he wanted to manifest himself. Okay? And the way the Roshim would appear in that olam is all the Navi saw, but they contained unbelievable secrets. In other words, the tzura, what a Navi saw, which we don't know, the tzura, what the Navi saw, was that the Banshim, there was a lot of things going on at the same time, but the Banshim would appear in a certain way. Let's say that the Navi has, for instance, all of a sudden the Banshim is on a horse, so to speak, in red garb, which meant Midas Hadin was Shelei. And the Navi would see that, and he would know not only the mashal, the physical, or rather the imagination manifestation, but he would know the interpretation of that image that he was looking at, the true interpretation simultaneously with the vision. It was a very strange state of consciousness, but he would see it, and the Moshe would be Megala to him whatever he wanted to Megala, whatever secrets he was able to receive, and whatever he was Zoicha to, and so on. Different Nevi'im saw different things. And Yashaya Navi, Yirmiyahu, Cheskel, and so on and so forth. That's Nevuah. We could actually look into Atzilus and see visions of God, Mamish. And that would be the secrets that the Moshe wanted to unfold. That was the greatest way of accessing information. Nothing beats it. Now Moshe Rabbeinu was literally right up against Atzilus. There was one thin barrier between him. He could see into Atzilus, but his distance from that was incredibly close. Right up against, so let's say there's a glass wall. He was right up to the glass wall. It's like you go to somebody's house, wait 1 second, he's got a glass wall, right? And you come right up against the glass wall and look right into his house. Okay? That's the Nevuah of Moshe, which is beyond. It's nothing.
But he did this physically by Rabbeinu? Physically.
No, he never went there physically.
But he went up to Har Sinai.
That was different. That's not a Nevuah. That's a visitation. I mean, obviously it's a Nevuah too because he's talking to Malachim up there. But that was unusual. Nevi'im never do that. They never leave. They stay.
They stay. But Moshe Rabbeinu left.
He left. Yeah, that's because he went up to Har Sinai. That was a different type of experience,
So his goof actually
which nobody does. I mean, today the only one.
So it must have been that his goof was so purified that he was able to do it.
Yeah, but whatever.
His goof was K'vat Kulei Ruchnius.
Yes, I mean it would mean that.
It wasn't a barrier to his seeing Bamish to the class of Atzilus.
Yeah. But as time went on.
Wait, his goof actually went there? Or?
Yeah, no, there is goof.
Then at Har Sinai.
Yeah, he went. Yeah.
Any other time.
That's not Nevuah. That's a visitation. I mean, that's even better than Nevuah. You're there.
So there, his goof actually went up to Atzilus, got the Torah, and came back down.
Mamish went up. It's like Eliyahu Novi. He went up.
Now, no one could get to the sixth.
Now, wait.
So
Now, after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, are you with me? After the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, right? Shortly afterwards, Hanani, Mishun, Azariah, they were the last Nevi'im, okay? That was the end of Nevuah. What does that mean that Nevuah ended? What it meant is that you could see into Atzilus, but you no longer stood by Bria, you stood by Yitzira. Means the distance between you and Atzilus was enormous. Therefore, the Nevuah was much more clouded. You see. In other words, the definition of a Navi is you must be able to see into Atzilus, which means you could see God, however he manifests.
No one sees into the fifth floor?
Nobody.
But isn't there 6 floors?
No, there's five, and then there's the roof. Nobody sees into the roof. Nobody sees into the 5th floor. Because it hasn't been transformed yet. We need to make Olam Haba, which is what I was trying to point out. We can only see into a Navi can only see into the 4th floor. That's it. Okay? Now, however, when Nevuah ended, there was still Nevuah, right? Yecheskel already was inferior as a Navi. Imagine that. He's the one who saw the Merkava. Cheskel was an inferior Navi, not because he was inferior. His Nevuah was inferior. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu was able to stand right up his imagination, right up to Atzilus, and there was only a glass partition. That's how clear it was. It's the greatest clarity of God ever known. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? However, other Nevi'im, depending on how good they were, it was more and more obscure. Rabbi Chaim Vital describes it as lenses. If you look at something through one lens, You could see it clearly. But the more lenses you keep adding on, the greater is the obscurity of the vision. Those are the other Nevi'im.
That's what the Gemara means when it says As with Clariot and the era.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was the greatest. So therefore, what happens is, it's very interesting. You have Yechezkel Hanavi, right, who can also look into Atzilus. But his problem is he's not standing in Bria, as if he was standing in Bria, whatever that means, He is standing in Yetzirah. He's standing in Yetzirah, right, and he's looking all the way through Yetzirah, through Bria, and he looks into Atzilus. But the vision is much more obscure, and the information is not the same. You see, that's his problem. So that already was after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, which there was still Nevuah by Yechezkel, but it was grossly inferior. However, as time went on, when Nevuah ended, what does that mean it ended? It means you could no longer look into Atzilus. It was closed, you see. So then what could you do? So then all you could look into was Bria or Yetzirah. That's it. Atzilus was closed, the curtain went down. Okay? What is it called when you can only look into Bria or Yetzirah? It's not called Nevuah anymore. You can't look at the Rebbe Hashem. You're not receiving images of that universe or that dimension. What's it called?
Ruach HaKodesh.
Correct. Very good. That's the real Ruach HaKodesh. Not what we have today. Well, I'll explain that. The Ruach HaKodesh is a borrowing of a term that doesn't apply today. You see, who had Ruach HaKodesh? Rabbi Shmuel. That's Ruach HaKodesh. He was able to go up and go and look into Yetzirah. Okay? That's Ruach HaKodesh. But he could not do anything more than that. They just were shut down and so on. That's the real Ruach HaKodesh.
Where's the Parga separation?
What's that? But in order to have Ruach HaKodesh or Nevuah, there's one essential thing you need to have. We don't have that. Besides that, we don't know how to do it, the mechanisms and the shemus and all that. The problem what's the major problem we have today? Who?
The Shekhinah is not there.
No, it's not the Shekhinah, no.
That gives
The Shekhinah is old. I want to tell you something. It's like they once asked the Kotzka, where is the Rebbe Shalom? Yeah, I don't know if you know this. Yeah, the Kotzka was fabulous. They asked him, where's the Rebbe Shalom? You know what he answered? Wherever you let him in. That's a gewaldige Wort. Wherever you let him in. He's always there trying to break into you. But we don't let him in, for whatever reason, and so on. Chatoim and all that kind of stuff, So the Rebbe Hashem is always ready to give you Nevuah. It's not his problem. It's our problem. And what's the greatest problem of Nevuah, of Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh? Tumah. You can't do it if you're Tameh.
Bilam was able to do it.
Bilam was a different kind of guy. I mean, that the Rebbe Hashem did, so the Goyim won't complain. And not only that, Bilam didn't access the Rebbe Hashem through Nevuah that we think of. He accessed through the whole, what the opposite of Nevuah is? Kishuf. Yeah. He accessed
Kishuf?
Yeah, he was the greatest Mechashiv of all. And that was fabulous.
What does that mean when you say how a woman saw them come?
Kishuf magic.
No, in terms of what he was able to access the information. But he did it through Kishuf. But the real thing is he was able to access the information that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to access.
Which is nothing.
But in the Dargi, he was even...
So Nevuah there would be the ability to access that type of information closest to the Rebbe.
Which Moshe couldn't.
You know what I'm
In
saying?
a way, he was bigger.
But Bilam was not a Novi in Kedusha. Nobody's going to say that Bilam actually sat down as Mechavan Shemus.
No,
he did it through Kishuf, and we don't have that anymore. Because Kishuf is an alternate, listen, it says, Zeh lu'umas zeh borolokim. It's Kinkelis,
So
right?
when he said, Matoivu Oleh Yaakov, that was through Kishuf.
That was a Nevuah. Well, that's an interesting Claire. Once he, you understand, forget about how he got there. The question is, the information coming to him, from where was it coming and how clear was it? So that already was in the dark of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because that's Torah. Bilam's curse is Torah, or rather his bracha is Torah. It's really what it is. But I want to point out one thing. The question is, wow, did Jews ever have this state? I mean, other than Moshe Rabbeinu and Bilam, let's say, did Jews ever have the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu? What do you think?
Shifcha Yam.
That's
So it says,
Yecheskel ben Buzi, but not
Shahak
Moshe.
bin
Rosh
Yevroah.
Hashanah Masha Lo Yiro Yecheskel ben Buzi.
Like Kodesh Kemoshe.
Yes. Yeah.
By the Shir, by the Yom.
Yeah. Yeah. Question is, what did she see and how did she see it and so on and so on. But the question, did the Jews ever access the darg of Moshe Rabbeinu?
No.
What do you think?
No.
It would seem not.
What about Rabbi Akiva? The discussion
Yeah, yeah. One
concerning Rabbi Akiva.
Pardes, right? That's Ruach HaKodesh. It's not Nevuah. Because it was in Olam Yitzira. That's why he's so matat. But anyway, because he's not in Olam Yitzira, Bri and so on. But anyway, yeah, we did. The answer is yes.
First we did this.
Exactly. I want to tell you something. Torah must be given through the greatest of all nevuahs. Why? Because there can be no uncertainties. Right? Torah cannot be given as a transmission with an uncertainty. Therefore, it requires the greatest darg of nevuah. Because in that darg, there's no uncertainties. You receive absolute information. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu had to have the greatest of all nevuahs. Because if he made a mistake, right, we would be with that mistake for thousands of years. So therefore Moshe Rabbeinu, in a certain sense, in other words, once the Moshe decided, in a certain sense, that he was the giver of the law, the Torah, he had to have the greatest nevuah possible by a Yelid Isha. Finished. But there was one time in the history of the Jewish people that every Jew was as great as mitzad the nevuah. Matan Torah. Why? Because we received two mitzvahs, not through Moshe Rabbeinu. Anoich Hashem Elokecha, right? And Loisiyah, right? And so on. Those two mitzvahs were not given to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? That's why Torah is only Gematria what? 611. Torah, right? It's not Gematria 613. Because the first two mitzvahs were not given through Moshe Rabbeinu. The Jews directly receive it from the Rabbanah Shalom, which itself is incredible. Why would the Moshe do that? And so on. But in any case, the Moshe gave the two mitzvahs through the Jews. That's called Aspaklaya HaMe'ira. But the only way to receive that, we know the rule is, that the only way to receive that is what? Is if you're on the dag of Moshe Rabbeinu. Therefore, everybody was on the dag of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Moshe did that on purpose, even though he knew everybody would die. But anyway, this is the problem. So the Tanoim, Amoraim, as long as they had the Porah Duma, they could have Ruach HaKodesh. Because even Ruach HaKodesh needs the Porah Duma. Our problem is we can't get rid of Tumas Meis. There's no Porah Duma. That we're stuck with Tumah. Therefore, we cannot in any which way achieve either Nevuah or the real Ruach HaKodesh. Which means we cannot see into a higher dimension. We can't do it.
But even those,
however, what?
Even those that were, this may be an offset, it wasn't enough to disinfect the Yetzer Hara inclination.
Even those who were what?
Who experienced that level of truth.
Was not enough to do what?
Affect the behavior, the Yetzer Hara, to choose to do wrong. You think from that moment on, the history would have been perfect behavior.
No, yeah, it doesn't change. No, I mean you have to obviously.
It would have been enough to straighten.
I'm not going into the preparation for Nevuah. How does a Navi become a Navi? I'm not getting to that. All I'm just saying is that there are different levels of communications with God and observations of God. That's really what it is. The greatest is Nevuah, and you understand what Nevuah is. The greatest of the Nevi'im was Moshe Rabbeinu, okay? And then the Jews had that for just one instant in time, whatever. After that, it was all downhill. Until you get the Yecheskel, which is after the Bayis Rishon, and he's still a Navi, but he's standing in Yitzira in the second floor, trying to look into the fourth. Much harder. Once that ended, once Nevuah ended, then that was it. Nobody could look into Atzilus. Means you could not look into the fourth floor. You could, however, look into the second floor, and perhaps the third. That's called Ruach HaKodesh. But that ended also. Once the Porah Duma, in the time of Rava, I think the Porah Duma ended about 250 CE, 300, whatever. Once, in the time of Rava, I think it was Rava and Rabbi and whatever, that was the end of the Porah Duma. And once that happened, It's funny, they once tell a story of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akona. What?
They had to put it after the Bayis Sheni, after the Churban Bayis Sheni.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, to Rava.
Isn't there Midrash
Yeah.
that Eliyahu
And then it stopped, you know.
Isn't there Midrash that Eliyahu he brought the Paradum with certain people?
That he brought it to
He
certain
brought,
people?
yeah.
I don't know, I'm not familiar with
Where
that.
did,
How
where
do
did,
you understand all the stories from Hashem Tov, Hashem Kodesh, and he saw certain things in Shemaim, or he went to Shemaim?
Okay, now, what's left for us? So there's an incident of Chaim Vital, Shah Kedusha, where he says, what's left for us? So we can access what's called meta states. We can access more higher dagas of where we are. But you have to obviously, and so on. So one of them is what's called Chaloim Nevu'i, prophetic dream. We can still have those. Yeah. The prophetic dream is when a malach on Yetzirah decides he'd like to give you some information, and he jingles the neshama, whatever, get into that, and all of a sudden you dream of something prophetic.
Where do we see that?
When you're sleeping. And then you wake up and say, wow.
Wait, who has it? Who had it?
Who has it? Okay. But
If he could tell you that, it'd be okay.
Well, I'm just telling you, so we do have access to what's called Chaloim Nevu'i, prophetic dreams. And that comes from, it's generated from Olam Yetzirah. Okay, we have that. Okay, that's one thing we have.
Rashi was
Second thing we have
know
what?
that Rashi was about Ruach HaKodesh, right? I mean, it's Avos. Rashi was about Ruach HaKodesh.
I imagine so.
The story
but that,
of the Duke over there, that he would come back only with two people and
Oh, that guy. It was.
that was the story.
But I don't know if that's true. There's a problem with that because they say that what's his name with a G.
The Duke of Bullion.
It was something like that, right? There's a problem with that because they say he never was in the city. Rashi was in Troyes, and he never came to that city. There's problems with that. I don't know if it's true. Let's assume it's true. Rashi clearly had Ruach HaKodesh, but that doesn't mean Rashi knew everything. Nobody knows everything. Even when Moshe Rabbeinu was denied.
So how did it? What was the mechanics of Rashi's Ruach HaKodesh? How did that work?
Oh, so that's our what we call Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah.
But that's a second thing. So besides prophetic dreams, we can have Ruach HaKodesh. But that's because we make ourselves so ruchnius. We are so divorced from Gashmias.
Despite the fact that we're Tummy.
Yeah, it's not a din in Tumah. You can have Ruach HaKodesh even with Tumah.
That's not the regular gather of Ruach HaKodesh.
No, it's not the real. It's funny because I think the Maisi is that Rabbi Nechunya ben Akona, who was a Moedik Mekubal, he's the one who wrote the Bahir. Sefer Rabbi is one of the classic pre-Lurianic, to use the fancy name, text.
Sefer Bahir?
No, Bahir. Bahir. There's Hecholas, there's some classic Kabbalistic works.
Is it before the Zohar?
Yeah. It's before the Zohar, yeah. It's called pre-Lurianic. It precedes the Ari and so on. The Ramak was, whatever, I didn't get into that. But anyway, so the Rabbi Nechunya ben Akona wrote the Bahir, which is very interesting. But anyway, so he was once having Ruach HaKodesh. I think it's in the Bahir. I forgot what it says, But there's the Maisa that he was once having Ruach HaKodesh, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akona, because in those days they could do it, right? Not like today, And I think it was Rabbi Akiva, I'm not sure, who needed to talk to him urgently. So how do you pull a guy out of Ruach HaKodesh if you need to talk to him? So what do? So I think it was Rabbi Akiva, if I remember correctly. So he took a beged shalnida and he touched him. Instantly awoke. But yeah, he just got him right out of the trance. I don't know if it's recorded what the reaction was. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akona for being disturbed, basically, But Tumah can pull you right out of that. That's real Ruach HaKodesh. The Pardes, the famous Pardes of Rabbi Akiva, Acher, Elish ben Avuya, and Rabbi Akiva, and then you have Ben Azai, and Ben Zoymer, yeah. That was a classic case of Ruach HaKodesh. That's really what it was. They all ascended through their imagination into Olam Yetzirah, and each one had his vision, depending on, Rabbi Akiva walked out Shalak, and so on. It has obviously, looking into another dimension, has obviously different, you react very differently. you're clearly risk factors and so on. But anyway, so the concept of Pardes is a classic story of Ruach HaKodesh. It's the same as Rabbi Shmuel, Tir, Rabbi Shmuel Atzmai. They had Ruach HaKodesh. As long as they had the Paraduma. What was that?
Akiva got higher than Moshe Rabbeinu, right? The Nun Shari Bina.
You know, nobody knows Nun Shari Bina because it's in the Nun.
Moshe Rabbeinu saw Rabbi Akiva and he was very howling.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it came from Nun Shari Bina. Obviously, it was a manifestation that was able to be here. You know, there are different answers to that. How could Rabbi Akiva do something that Moshe Rabbeinu was not aware of? Doesn't everything come to Moshe Rabbeinu? So people deal with that problem and so on. That
Moshe Rabbeinu was the spitz of Nevuah. Who was the spitz of Ruach HaKodesh?
Of Ruach HaKodesh? It's hard to say, because you don't.
I've seen it written.
Tanoim had Ruach HaKodesh. David HaMelech was a Navi. He's one of the 48 Nevi'im. A Navi doesn't have Ruach HaKodesh. A Navi is far greater than that. I mean, it's like if I win the marathon, 26 miles, I'm going to certainly win the 5-mile race. I mean, David HaMelech was a Navi. He's considered among the 48 Nevi'im. David HaMelech is a Navi. The whole Tillim is, and so on, It's far greater. But the Tanoim had Ruach HaKodesh. Anyway.
Larry Kaplan speaks about the meditation.
Who?
Larry Kaplan.
Yeah, what about
meditation, he says you can actually visualize yourself ascending behind the curtains and things like that.
Yeah.
What is that?
But you don't ascend. You can. I explain because the imagination becomes subject to an external force, kedusha, whatever, and all of a sudden it becomes like a movie screen. You just see. It's like if you close your eyes and you want to imagine a scene. Your imagination can do that for you. But what happens if somebody can impose himself on your imagination, right? Take away your control and just put a scene on it. All of a sudden you're looking at something that you have no control over, right? You can't stop, and it's there. And that person can control and do whatever he wants. Send you any messages he wants. Talk about email.
What do you mean by that?
It's called iMail, imagination, not email.
Is that real competitive of the kind of context about a dream? Is that similar to that?
Yeah, so exactly. The difference between Nevuah and Ruach HaKodesh is how far can you see. If you can see into Atzilus, you're a Navi. If you cannot see into Atzilus, because that's closed, then you're talking about Ruach HaKodesh. But whatever it is, either way, it's the ability to see another dimension. A Ruch Nistig dimension. The second, third, or fourth floor. You see, that's what Nevuah, and that was granted to Klal Yisrael. The truth is, I think there's a ton of Velio that says anybody can become a Navi, even a Goy. If you know how to do it, even a Goy can become that. Obviously, there's a whole process of Tahara and Tzidkus and so on and so forth. But the ton of Rabbi Shmuel says that even a Goy can become, even a woman, Devorah Neviah. I had to say even a woman, but a woman can certainly become a same thing. Holder, Sora, all the Imars were Nevi'im. They're all Nevi'im. I mean, so clearly Nevuah is a mechanism and it's a process that anybody could achieve if you have the right teacher. We don't have that anymore. In the old days, they used to have Bnei HaNevi'im. There used to be schools of Nevuah, schools of Nevuah. Today, those schools don't exist anymore, and so on. But what we can access today is prophetic dreams, Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh today is what's called divine inspiration. All of a sudden you know something. You don't know why you know it. You don't even know from where you know it.
Is that
right?
Is that
and you know it. What?
Is that
no, that's number 4. That's the 4th thing that's available. What's available today is several ideas. The first one is prophetic dreams. The second thing is Ruach HaKodesh, which I'm talking about, which is divine inspiration. All of a sudden you know something. You don't know why or how, but you know what you know, and you know it's true. That depends on tzidkus and so on. That's today. People have Ruach HaKodesh, obviously, so on, so Gili Eliyahu is another. Gili Eliyahu is a third form that you can access. Obviously, you have to be a very special yid to get Gili Eliyahu and so on. That's a third way of accessing what's called meta information.
Is that the lowest dagger that we have today?
No, I've had the lowest one would be prophetic dreams.
Prophetic dreams.
Yeah, Gili Eliyahu is much higher. A fourth way of accessing Ruchnius There are many different views of what happened. There are views. This is one shita. That really you want to be over devotion, or whatever. You know, that's one view. You know what I'm saying?
But if you're saying that his program was to be in Hashem, so l'chayra, it would be more logical to say that Adam Rishon was a sholem. That's why he wanted to be a Hashem. But if he had a defect, how can you become a Hashem?
That's an oxymoron. By definition, if you're a sholem, you don't want to be the Hashem. It's an oxymoron. Only imperfect people want to be perfect and be
whichever way you take it. The Maisa, whichever way you take it. I don't know what you term it. But the Maisa, it should have been that he's a sholem. That's why he wanted to be. Why did the Malachim want to see Shira? If they saw a defect, you said they see everything. If they saw a defect in Adam Rishon, so then they shouldn't have wanted to see Shira.
They didn't see it.
Why didn't they see it?
Because it's not visible.
Were they on Madreg of Nebuah?
No.
Did they see everything absolute?
No.
Why not?
What they saw.
Why did they say they didn't see everything absolute?
What I want to say is that the flaw was not in his appearance.
Not mine.
The flaw was not in his appearance, his externals. The flaw was in his drive or his attitude. That's the flaw.
The spirit.
Well, the attitude.
They are men of the spirit.
They don't see that.
They're not in the physical world.
No. Malachim don't see everything, first of all. No Malach sees everything. They see only what the Rosh wants them to see. They don't see everything. They don't see everything.
Excuse me, the highest Malach is in which Olam? The highest Malach in Atzilus?
I think the fact that you're saying he's a sholem, which means that he's perfect. First of all, the word shalom doesn't mean perfect. It means complete. I think I would differ.
So without chisaron?
No. A malach is a complete bria.
Right.
Why? Because it cannot be more. But it's not perfect. You're mixing up two different terms. Shalom means that you're exactly what I want you to be. There's nothing missing in terms of what you should have. That's shalom, complete. We're all complete, but we're not perfect.
Only Rabbi Shalom could be perfect.
There's a difference between the shalom and shalom, but he wasn't perfect.
What's perfect and what's not good?
He was, that's the concept of tzimtzum, which Ramchal brings down. The Moshe could have created a beer which is perfect, but he didn't. Instead, he created a beer which is complete, but not perfect.
What's perfect?
A malach is also complete, but it's not perfect. A malach in and of itself is complete. The problem with the malach, he cannot go higher.
Yeah, but then you have to define.
You hear what I'm doing?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
But you have to define what Adam Rishon was lacking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
you have
it
to
wasn't
clearly
perfect.
define. You have to clearly define, because the Ramban says he wasn't lacking anything. The Ramban said he was a perfect bria.
What's the word he uses?
By what?
Sholem?
I have to see.
Take a look.
See it again. Yeah.
There's a difference between being sholem and perfect. He wasn't perfect.
What's perfect and
Or else he would never
How
have
do you
said
say
it.
perfect? What's that good?
That's a good question. Muslim?
Okay, just one
No,
other
that
thing.
you only say on the chassan. By the way, a malach can achieve the highest olam that a malach can be in is where? Atzilus? Or not even in Atzilus?
Bria. There is no malachim in that.
There are no malachim in Atzilus.
Bria is the top.
Only in Bria.
All those big malachim. First of all, the 10 madrigas of malachim. That's number one. Rambam means the down, And but the highest one is Bria. You can't go higher than Bria.
Okay, now, to reconcile what you just said tonight with the Nefesh HaChaim. The Nefesh HaChaim says that Adam Rishon Adam Achet was B'chinas Emes V'Sheka. In other words, in order to do an Avera, he knew the concept of an Avera, but it's like throwing yourself off a cliff to do an Avera. It didn't come naturally to him. After the Nachash,
Is there a napkin down there?
after the Nachash was Garm the Chet, it instilled in the human being a pollution. It polluted the human being, and it became Toivara instead of Emes V'Sheka. Every little maisa, darga that a person did, every action that a person did, had Toiv and it had Ra. There's no pure Toiv and there's no pure Ra. It's Toiv Ra. So to use your